First of all, I'm going to start by explaining what the etymological fallacy is, and then I'll tell you what the anti-etymological fallacy is. So every word has an etymology, and it has a denotation, and it has a connotation. Okay, here's an example of a word whose etymology in English is quite transparent. Many of the words in English are borrowed, and so the etymology is not transparent. But let's say the word blackbird, which is spelled just like the word black plus the word bird, except that it goes together. So the word blackbird has a transparent etymology. It comes from the adjective black and the noun bird, but it's put together, and not every blackbird is black, and not every black bird is a blackbird. What do I mean? Well, a blackbird is a particular genus, a particular species of bird. And so you can take a blackbird and dye it some other color, and it would still be a blackbird, because if you did a DNA test of that bird, well, that bird would in fact be a blackbird. It would belong to the same species, and it wouldn't matter that it wasn't black anymore because you dyed it some other color. I don't suggest that you do that to any bird, but by the same token, let's say that you were to take a parrot, such as a Quaker parrot. I have one right here.
Summer does not want to be painted black. But even if I did paint him black, that wouldn't make him a blackbird. It would only make him a black Quaker parrot. He would still be a bird. He might be black, but he wouldn't be a blackbird. Don't you agree, Summer? I think so. Not every black bird is a blackbird.
The etymological fallacy would be if I thought that every word meant exactly what its etymology meant. Okay? But there is an opposite fallacy, and that is the fallacy of saying that we must look at the etymology of a word when we're determining what it means. But let's take the word selfish. Okay, the word selfish is it's an English word composed of English subparts. Everybody knows what self is. Everybody knows what ish is. Ish is an ending that helps something to become an adjective. So now if somebody says, I don't think it's bad to be selfish, there are some people who will say, well, actually it is bad to be selfish, and they'll go into the dictionary, and the dictionary has a number of definitions of selfish, and built into those definitions there's a certain amount of negativity. So it's somebody who's unduly concerned with his own issues at the expense of other people. It's someone who might be greedy and take things away from other people. It might be someone who hurts other people. So there is the basic definition of selfish, which just indicates that one is concerned with oneself primarily. And then there are the connotations of selfish, as in selfish is a bad thing. Now, not everybody agrees that being concerned primarily with your own affairs makes you a bad person. But if you were to see that definition, if you would just concede that, by definition, you'd lose the argument. if we are going to have a discussion and in which not everybody agrees on whether selfish is good or selfish is bad, and we're actually discussing it, we need to be able to use selfish without the connotations. Um, because if you have the connotations built into the word, that's not going to work. Well, this can be a problem because extremely social people are always concerned with every argument. They will ask, yes, but is it good for our group? In other words, they're concerned with the group that they belong to and what that group thinks about this particular concept. And so they're not able to shift perspective easily. However, being concerned primarily with denotation rather than connotation puts you in the other camp where you might be diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum, because one of the ways in which a person on the autism spectrum is identified is that they completely ignore connotations and only use words based on their denotation. Okay, so how is this a problem? Well, it's a problem for people if they're not able to shift perspective. And actually, those on the autism spectrum are often blamed with not being able to shift perspective. But I'm going to show you that extremely social people are actually socialized to not be able to take off the glasses that their social perspective puts on things. So let's talk about how the connotation of a word can get in the way of talking about the concept that the word stands for. For instance, some people think that it's good to save money, and other people think that it's better to spend money. Those people who think it's good to save money are the ones who think that each of us are responsible for ourselves and we should have a nest egg and be able to take care of ourselves when something happens. And those who think that we should spend more are thinking about how every time we spend money, we're actually contributing to the community that we live in. And so the idea is be generous, spend a lot of money, and then everybody will have jobs. Okay, this is the background to the reason why some people think that if you don't spend a lot of money, you're stingy. And other people would describe you as frugal. So the basic difference between stingy and frugal is the connotations. Stingy has bad connotation, frugal has a good connotation, but they're basically describing the same concept. In this particular case, the etymology of stingy and frugal is not necessarily that transparent to English speakers. But the word that I would like to now discuss is anarchy. Anarchy comes from Greek roots, and it basically refers to a society that has no ruler. Okay, so monarchy is a society with one ruler, and anarchy is a society with no ruler. Okay. The problem with that is that a lot of people aren't even aware of the etymology. And even if they are, they're going to say, if you use anarchy to simply mean a society without a ruler, you are committing the etymological fallacy. And I would submit that in this particular case, not paying attention to the etymology is actually the anti-etymological fallacy. So if you go and look in the dictionary at a term such as anarchy, you are going to find that the first definition is closest to the etymology, and the further away you go, the more it's about what people think about that. So somebody recently was giving me a definition that they found for anarchy. So this person found a definition for anarchy. It says noun, a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. Okay, so absence and non-recognition of authority, absence of authority means not having a ruler. Okay, that's pretty close to the etymological definition. But then they were given as similar to lawlessness, absence of government is okay, nihilism, mobocracy, which sounds quite a lot like democracy, really, a revolution, insurrection, riot, rebellion. Okay, these are connotations of anarchy, but that's not what anarchy is. Anarchy is without a ruler, okay? It's the sort of order that you find in a place where there is no monopoly on force. That doesn't mean that there aren't rules that people abide by, but they don't abide by them because some authority is imposing those rules from without. They abide by these rules because they wish to. Okay? Now, how would we go about discussing anarchy with somebody who equates anarchy to lawlessness? It's almost impossible. It's as if, they're wearing glasses and the glasses already have their ideology built into their idea of what the definition of anarchy is. They're not able to shift perspective. You could always say, oh, the word anarchy is already taken. The word selfish is already taken, and they all mean bad things. So invent another word like without a government or without a ruler, where it's transparent what it means, and you can use that. Well, it doesn't make sense to have to invent a new word every time the old word gets a bad connotation due to the perspective of a group of people. So the anti-etymological fallacy in this case is that we can't go back and say, listen, I understand that you don't think anarchy is good and that you don't think that it leads to an orderly society. But in order for us to be able to discuss what anarchy is, you can't make that part of the definition of anarchy. Let's just make the definition be the definition. Let it be the denotation without a government, but not lawlessness, not disorder. Those are things that we can argue about. Will anarchy lead to lawlessness? Will it lead to disorder? So this is the place where you have to worry about neurotypical people. They are constantly accusing people on the autism spectrum of being too wedded to denotation and not paying attention to connotation. But if you build your conclusion into your words, then how will it be possible to shift perspective long enough to consider the other person's point of view? In my opinion, the anti-etymological fallacy in this case makes it impossible for people with differing opinions to have a rational discussion. And it actually makes it very hard for neurotypical people to shift their perspective and to see another person's point of view. So if you believe in perspective shifting, if you think that you are capable of that, do not resort to the anti-etymological fallacy. A blackbird may not be every blackbird, but it's usually a bird that, on the whole, if it's not an albino, will be black, and it will have a particular genetic. Not every bird that we color black is a blackbird. But we don't have to invent new terms for the word selfish or for the word anarchy in order to discuss them with people who like anarchy and who like selfishness, and with other people who dislike anarchy and dislike selfishness. It's important to understand that words have denotations, they have connotations, and the connotation is not what the word means.